It is a privilege to introduce architect Madhura Premathilake, a visionary architect and the driving force behind Team Architrave, a Colombo-based design practice that has set benchmarks in personalized and place-responsive architecture. Architect Madhura's philosophy envisions architecture as an humble, sustainable and adaptive dialogue between necessity, nature and humanity. The studio is renowned for its sensitivity to context, commitment to sustainability, having won 9 Design Awards and 4 Color Awards from the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. Their work exemplifies creativity and excellence, from the creative reuse of heritage structures to the design of contemporary interiors and innovative urban landmarks. Team Architrave's influence extends beyond borders, with its projects featured in prestigious publications. Their competition-winning designs, including the Jaffna Cultural Center and the new wing of the Colombo Town Hall, reflect their commitment to cultural and civic significance. Their projects, Villa Magona and Hayden House, earned Asia Pacific Property Awards in 2013-14, and in the same year, architect Madhura was one of the 10 international architects chosen to participate in the Lokan International Biennale, China. Today, Team Architrave stands as a beacon of excellence, seamlessly blending local relevance with global innovation. Please join me in welcoming architect Madhura Premathilake to share his insights and remarkable journey.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to be back in Kochi. Thank you for inviting me once again, and it was interesting to see the video of the progress of living Monsoon, many familiar faces, and to see how far you have evolved. So I'm really very happy to be back here again. Thank you for inviting me. I will start with the story, and this shape, of course, is very familiar to all of us. We saw it in Prakon's work, the ubiquitous shape of the envelope roof, which we are very familiar with in Sri Lanka, in all of Asia. This building is by Jeffrey Bauer. He built it somewhere in the 1960s, early 60s. And it was a classic of contemporary modern tropical architecture, with its pavilion roofs and the courtyards. And it draws closely from buildings in tradition. This building, which is called Iknaligoda Balau, which is an old house of the nobility, with, you can see, almost identical section and plan of pavilion, umbrella roof and courtyard. This is the Walau, this is probably from the 17th or 18th centuries. This is the Ina de Silva house by Jeffrey Bauer in the 1960s. Again, the ancestor and the descendant. You can see very clearly where the inspiration flows from. The two sections, you can see the comparison of the umbrella roofs and the courtyards, the big ones and the small ones. So the entire ethos of architecture, of climate, of response to climate, of lifestyle, everything was drawn from these two elements of the umbrella roof and the courtyard. When I started to practice in the 1990s, my sites were about that much. I didn't have space for this umbrella roof, because the umbrella roof must not only have space for itself, it must have visual space to flow beyond. I had another problem, which the veranda is a beautiful inside-outside space. It protects, it cools the house. But it is also, we forget, dark and damp. Most of our traditional buildings are dark and damp. And 70% of the medical problems that rural people have in Sri Lanka comes from living in damp houses. In tradition, they say that you must light a hearth inside the house for 2 weeks before you go into occupation to chase the devils away. The devil you're chasing away is the humidity. So I found that when you introduce a veranda to a small building, which is what I was designing, the interior space became very constricted. Also the open courtyard, as Baba was able to use without any doors and windows, which means allowing not only a little bit of rain, but also all the rodents and animals to come in from one side and go out the other, which means you need staff and maintenance ability to keep it looking as good as it does in this picture. Now my clients didn't have any of that, so I had to look elsewhere for inspiration. So my work was beyond the umbrella and beyond the courtyard. Early work, I struggled with the idea of building compact spaces, small spaces which had to deal with the climate and the brief and small sites. First time that I really found a direction to move was in this building called the Longhouse, which was built in 2002. It was a long, narrow site. I had begun to practice certain ideas in the smaller sites, but in this, which was a longer site, a bigger site, I was able to express these ideas more clearly. The idea of a linear building, which does not need to rely on the umbrella and does not use the courtyard, but the linearity of the garden. So we have in this several linear elements. There's a linear wall which runs through the whole building, which separates the service and the served elements. The yellow is a circulation, the orange are all the rooms, and the brown is a veranda. Then it ends in the long garden, which is the green, which you also see in the section. So the roof is present, but it's hovering above. It does not come down. And raising the roof off and facing it in the right direction allows the light to come in. My response to the veranda was to create a space which also had light. It protected, but it also allowed the light in. So we have here pergolas, wooden pergolas, bamboo tats, and glass or polycarbonate over there, so that it screens the light, but it allows the light in and creates the shadow pattern throughout. In later buildings, like this building, which is by the sea, we developed this idea much further. And also, the idea of double screening, here is a set of window shutters and windows behind. The deep veranda, this is facing the sea to protect it. And the idea of the pergola and the bamboo tat, which creates those patterns which change during the entire day and all the seasons. I have, over the course of my practice, put down like a checklist of things that we, looking back at things, formed a list which we call this manifesto. And there are some things which relate to the idea of sustainability, like the idea of building less, building on less, which means we reduce the program. We build only on 50% of the land max. We build urban, which means respecting the context, build in the landscape. Build sun and moon means facing east and west. This is critical. One of the first things I was taught, I think in second year, was not to face your windows east or west. And I found that to be pretty boring, because you miss the sunrise, you miss the sunset, and you miss the moon, and basically life is very, very dull. And in our climate, controlling the sun from the east and west is no big deal. There are many, many interesting ways to deal with that instead of just turning away from it. I won't go through all of this, but I will talk about this one, build in and out. I think I need to modify that, because this barrier between inside and outside needs to be one which the occupant can control. That is critical. That people who live in the house should be able to say, I want it open today, I want it closed today, I want it half open today or half closed tomorrow. That ability to control that relationship is critical. So it's not enough to create veranda spaces, to create in-between spaces. You must create, and with technology you can do it, the ability to control. So the idea of screens and filters and vegetation and so forth, which can create that kind of control and difference. So the building in which a lot of these ideas came together was my own home, which was built in 2014. So that was 12 years after the Longhouse. In this house, most of those ideas of the manifesto are manifested here. So first of all, it's a very small plot. This is the smallest legal plot size allowed in Sri Lanka, which is about 150 square meters. The footprint is less than half the site, and the building is thin and tall, and it allows, it's single bank, so it allows the air to pass through. The staircase is more than just a means of going from one floor to the other. It's single flight, so that it opens on each side to the east and west. So you get the sun bouncing off the steps at different times of the day. This was the house. We had some existing trees on the site which we built around. This is what it looks like now. So if we order pizza, they deliver it next door, because nobody lives in the jungle. These neem trees which were there on the site are probably 50 years old. We built around it. The main living space is on the upper level, so that the ground level is freed for mundane things like parking, and now my studio, my office itself resides there. And this way of relating to this deck is very important, because it extends the living space outside, and it's a pivoted, counterweighted screen which opens up to connect the inside and the outside. When it's open, it becomes a canopy, both for the sun and the rain, and when it comes down, it becomes a screen which certainly frustrates the mosquitoes from getting in. The rooms are fairly narrow. It's 2.7 meters, 9 feet wide, which is my idea of how to build small and consume less. This is the staircase catching the morning light in this instance. The western setting light will come in from the top there. And there's a skylight on top which will bring in the light at noon. And of course, like every house in Sri Lanka, it culminates with the water tank on top. This house uses some of the same ideas. Again, the idea of building on very little of the site. It's on a very large plot, but the buildable area is that much. But we chose to build on less than half of the buildable area, so that the house is a very thin sliver which steps down 6 levels, so that it steps down the hill and the contours. So at the entrance, you barely know that there is a house, because the rest of it goes down. And then it begins to emerge from the landscape. And this idea of building very close to the trees, to the big trees, is something that I learned from the late Lucky Senanayake, who was this wonderful landscape designer and artist. So if you build very close to the trees, you will have the advantage of the screening, and you also don't have the problem of the tree blocking your view. So the tree basically frames the view, while you have the advantage of the protection from it. And then the houses, we have all these screens, and I'm an unabashed user of glass, because I believe there is a way to use the glass in the tropics by screening it out, by adding these balconies and pergolas and various elements which will protect and help to use the indoor-outdoor space. The manifesto which I talked about is about giving our clients the best deal possible, deriving the best options for our clients. When we consider the idea of architects designing public buildings, simply satisfying our clients is not enough, to my mind. We have an obligation to people who have no say in how the building is created, but who are forced to use it, whether they live in it, whether they work in it, or whether they just walk by it on their way home. People are affected by buildings, and we as architects or as planners or as developers have an obligation to them to provide certain things which I call rights. So this idea of a Bill of Rights for users of architecture came about in considering the obligation of the building industry to people who have no control over the kind of spaces they occupy. So ideas like, and I'm applying this to people who live in public housing, people who work in large workplaces like offices or factories, people who go to jail, children who use school buildings. So the right to public open space, the right to private open space, the right to interact with nature, the right to fresh air, the right to feel the breeze or warmth, the right to natural light, the right to experience sunrise and sunset, which means the passing of the day. Most of these you would think are taken for granted, but I've done workshops with students of architecture or young architects from in many countries in South Asia, and very often you find that even a young architect cannot find lodgings which satisfy all these things. This one is what I was talking about, the right to control the relationship between inside and outside. Very often you don't get that in your hotel room because the doors are fixed shut. The right to privacy, dignity, the right to personalize, the right to an environment that will age gracefully, the right to age with dignity, and the right to cope with disabilities. So when we had this opportunity to design a public building, these ideas were working in our minds. This is the Jaffna Cultural Center, which is in the north of Sri Lanka, in the former theatre of war, where the Sri Lankans fought each other in a bloody civil war for 35 years. It is the prime facility for culture and art in the city of Jaffna, and it was a gift from the government of India at the end of the war, and as a gesture of reconciliation at the end of the war, and a catalyst for social and political change in the city of Jaffna. The city of Jaffna is a now bustling commercial town, and with a lively art scene and a lively cultural context. The site is located in a very important place next to this building, which is the Jaffna Public Library, this building here, which is Jaffna's most revered public institution, because the people of Jaffna have very great respect for education and knowledge. So this public library is treated like a temple. So people take their shoes off when they enter it. So our site was located right next to it. So the primary response had to be defined by building next to this much smaller but much more important cultural icon. So our first gesture was this is our site here. It comes right up to here. This is the public library next to it. So our first gesture was to pull back our building up to this, to the facade, the front of the public library. And then to extend the garden of the public library right across our front. So basically, we were pulling ourselves back to fall in line with the public library. And then we introduced this facade, this colonnade, which observes the scale and the rhythm and the material of the library. It doesn't observe the same details, but it observes scale and rhythm. So that when you stand here at the entrance, it appears like the public library is extended across the front of our building. You do not see our building. This is the formal entrance to the building. You see it like an extension of the library. These are the two front pages for comparison. So the idea was to be secondary in that position to the library. The design was selected via competition, which was conducted by the High Commission of India and the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. And what we tried to do was create a contemporary building, but which was inspired by the traditions of the region. There are three built elements in it: a cultural museum, auditorium, and a learning spire, all arranged around a public square and next to this waterfront. So this public square was not part of the brief. It's something which we introduced to create a public gathering space because it's a public building, and we felt that without a public open space, it had no relevance. The base is on 3 levels, and then there's a spire which goes up, as I will explain. The first building is the Cultural Museum, which is what you see here. And it is the formal entry to the building. This is the colonnade. You can see the presence of the building next door being extended across. So our building is behind this facade, and it rises up behind it, which is a completely different material. It's steel and glass. The colonnade is white masonry. And the two are separate. There's a physical gap which separates the two. So it is very clear that we are wearing a respectful garb in the presence of the respected building next door. This forms the formal entry, and it is also a public exhibition space. And it opens to the courtyard, the public square at the back. It has 3 levels with open exhibition spaces and an enclosed museum on top. And it is topped by a dome, which is an echo of the dome of the public library next door. And under this dome is the main exhibition space of the museum. So the actual character of this building is only revealed on the inside. When you see it from the public square on the inside, that's when you see this building as it is, with its timber screen and its dome. Until then, it was hiding behind the colonnade. The public square itself is a very critical part of the design. All 3 buildings, the public entries from the public square. So this is a former vehicle street which was pedestrianized to create a promenade next to this lake, and the public entries through this, and then entries from the public square into each of these. This public square, this particular location is remembered. It has a very strong place in the memory of Jaffna because there was an open air theatre, a small amphitheatre here before the war, where they would hold classical music concerts very often, and it was a part of the memory of the city. So we wanted to create a public activity space in that very same spot. We planted 100 neem trees to create the shade because it's a harsh climate during the summer months. And the blank wall of the auditorium, we introduced this art wall where the idea being that artists could display their art and people could walk up these platforms and engage with them. And the square then steps down in the form to form an amphitheatre, to form a performance space, which is first on the street here, and then it steps down to the lake where there is a floating stage. The auditorium is a 600 plus seat facility. It is a limited depth because it's designed specifically for a type of performance where you need to see the facial expression of the performer, like Bharatanatyam. So it's a 23-meter depth but wider. And the acoustic walls of the auditorium carry a special motif, which is the pattern of the Palmyra leaf fence, which is the most frequently seen, most well-known urban feature of Jaffna. So when you sit there for a while, this pattern slowly begins to become evident. The building was designed to contain learning facilities for the arts. So studios, conference spaces, teaching spaces and so forth. And the idea being that if there was one building which was going to be prominent here, it should relate to the same ideas as the public library, the idea of education and knowledge. So there is the old icon, which is the public library, and the new symbol, which is also to do with learning. Therefore, the learning tower. A base level of 3 floors, and then about 7 or 8 floors above that. The floors are open on its longer sides, so that it allows the sea breeze to pass through. So the building on more than 7 floors is completely naturally ventilated, and it is wrapped around by this timber screen, which screens the sun, allows the breeze to pass through, and creates these patterns which move across each floor. So as a result of, and of course allows the views, as a result of the screen, these solar panels which are on top of the roof can be used for 70% of the power requirement of this building, because it makes maximum use of natural light and ventilation. Screen itself was made of 3 meter by 3 meter panels, so that it could be fitted from inside. So there was no scaffolding required to erect this on 13 floors. Each one was fitted as a 3 meter panel from inside. And it can be, if it is necessary to repair it or replace it, it can be done the same way. The inspiration for this tower, for this building, we have drawn from the Hindu architecture of the region. For example, the learning tower is influenced by the idea of the Gopura. The entrance steps to the learning tower is derived from the idea of the Ter Murtipadi, the chariot house steps. And of course, the steps down to the lake is inspired by the steps of the tank. The idea was to create a public building which is drawing on the traditions of Jaffna, relating to its historical context without necessarily being pastiche or copying elements. Jaffna is at the architectural crossroads between modernity and tradition. There is a whole identity issue being explored in the architecture that is happening in Jaffna. Our take is to say that you can be contemporary and you can draw from tradition at the same time. It is not being used as much as it should have, because architects can only do so much. The bureaucrats must use the building in the way it was intended. So this was one such instance, a classical music concert in that same space, an IT festival which basically used the entire space the way it should be. But unfortunately, to the street, this is what you see. You get these construction fences still in space, because the building is not manned or staffed in a way that would allow the public free access. So unfortunately, that's your pedestrian, so-called pedestrian street, which is now closed off by this ugly fence. But it remains a landmark even from across the lagoon, and something that is, I hope, calling for the people of Jaffna to come and use it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those brilliant ideas with us. Your approach to materiality and detailing was truly inspiring. As a token of our appreciation, IAA Cochin Center would like to present the wonderful speakers for tonight with a special memento. May I request Architect S. Gobakumar to give away the memento to our speaker from Thailand, Architect Pakon Makwarat. Thank you all. May I now request Architect B.N. Ramachandran to give away the memento to our second speaker for tonight, Architect Madhur Prem Tilak from Sri Lanka. May I now request Architect Sebastian Jose, Chairperson of IAA Cochin Center, to give away the memento to our sponsors for today. Can a representative from Siemens join us on stage and accept the memento? Thank you everyone. You may kindly return to your seats. May I now request Architect Abhishek Xavier, convener of Living Monsoon 3rd edition, to speak a few words about the upcoming calendar.
Good evening. It's been another inspiring evening with inspiring talks coming from two architects, Architect Pakon and Architect Madhura. Thank you very much for being with us and for spending your time with us. You've also seen a video that was prepared showing the 10-year journey of the Living Monsoon series. It's been a very inspiring journey for all of us, for many of us over here. And as you've already seen, we've already begun our preparations for the Monsoon Architecture Festival. And we've also prepared a short video in the context of this. Please, can you add that?
The IIA Kochi Center envisioned a platform to showcase the architectural innovations of monsoon regions. The Monsoon Architecture Festival was born, a global stage where design meets the challenges of rains and fluctuating climates. The monumental 10th anniversary is here. The 2025 edition promises to be the most ambitious yet. 800 plus architects from across India, 50 plus speakers from around the globe, 50 plus subject matter experts sharing deep insights, 15 plus award-winning architects from monsoon regions, 100 plus special invitees. Join us on March 28th and 29th at the Grand Hyatt Kochi for a celebration where ideas flourish, boundaries dissolve, and monsoon-inspired architecture takes center stage.
Prior to that, we will also be conducting the Monsoon Architecture Awards, the third of our series. Our categories are as before. We have the category 1, which is a single family residence, category 2, which is multifamily residential, 3 leisure and hospitality, 4 institutional and workplaces, and 5 public spaces. We've also added a competition category this time. It's titled the Monsoon City, and it's a placemaking competition set here in Kochi itself. All of these will soon be opened up for participation. So please be generous in your participation, and God willing, it will all go well. Thank you and have a good rest of the evening.
As we conclude our final LM talk for this term, I would like to invite Architect Sebastian Jose, Chairperson of IAA Cochin Center, to deliver a felicitation address.
Good evening, friends. The Living Monsoon series has come a long way since its inception in 2015. What began as a modest initiative has grown into a definitive platform for knowledge exchange on climate-responsive architecture. Today, as we near the close of the third season, I am proud to share that this series is set to complete 10 years. a milestone that speaks volumes about its impact and consistency. Over the years, Living Monsoon series has been marked by exceptional content that has enriched our architectural fraternity. We've had the privileges of hosting nearly 50 speakers from across the globe, across the Monsoon belt, spanning Brazil, Mexico, Vietnam, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and of course India. Each of them brought unique perspectives, sharing invaluable experiences and practices. Kerala's architects have undoubtedly gained tremendous insights from this global pool of expertise. What makes this series even more special is its unwavering consistency. From its very first season to the current one, a dedicated and highly motivated team from our center has worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that we deliver impactful sessions time after time. As we prepare to conclude Season 3 and launch the Monsoon Architecture Festival 2025, it's my privilege to introduce the incredible team that has made all this possible. First of all, I would like to welcome on stage architect Abhishek Xavier, the convener of Living Monsoon, who is the leader of the pack. He has been, I think he has spent a lot of time, looking at the speakers, identifying them, and so a lot of time has been spent, and Abhishek has been a very consistent force behind this Living Monsoon team. So I would like to give a small token of appreciation on behalf of the center to Architect Varsha is the co-convener of Living Monsoon talk series. She along with Abhishek and Kalpana. Kalpana is not here with us in this audience, but Kalpana is behind the scenes communicating with all the speakers, and Varsha ensures that they are all here, and then you all get to interact with them. So they are an incredible team, Varsha and Kalpana. Thank you, Varsha, for all that you have done for the center. And I must mention architect Shariga, our ever-energetic secretary of IA Coaching Center, whose unwavering commitment has been a crucial part of this journey. I would now like to call the following names also. Ragima, who's done the interview coordination. Come on, Ragima. Linu, who has done the MC coordination. Ronson, Ajay, Anvind, Jaykrishnan, Anjit, who has handled the guest reception, and Sali, Shahir, please come. Please join me in giving them a much deserved standing ovation for their dedication and hard work. To acknowledge the pioneers who laid the foundation for this remarkable journey. Architect V. N. Ramachandran, who conceived the Living Monsoon series during his term in 2015. Can you also come to the stage? Architect Billy Menon, the first convener of Monsoon Architecture Festival 2017. Billy, yes. And Architect Vijay, who steered MAF 2022 and Season 2 of Living Monsoon through the challenging COVID era with remarkable success. Unfortunately, he is not here. So this has been a remarkable journey of exceptional teamwork, hallmark of Cochin Center, and something we can all take immense pride in. Now moving forward, I'm thrilled to officially announce the details of the Monsoon Architecture Festival. In fact, it has been already announced, but it will be held in Grand Hyatt, Borgatti on March 28th and 29th, With its expansive 25,000 square feet of space, this venue will host 850 delegates, 50 subject experts from Monsoon region and 150 special invitees from various parts of the country. This festival promises to be bigger and better than ever, an event that will not only showcase the best of Monsoon-sensitive architecture, but also position our center as a leader in fostering meaningful dialogues and sustainable design. I encourage all of you to support this initiative, not just by attending, but by joining the organizing team. If you feel you can contribute to any one of the aspects of this event, please come forward. We would be delighted to have your support. Let us make MAP 2025 a celebration of our shared vision, creativity, and commitment to architecture that respects and responds to our culture and region. Thank you.
Thank you. To deliver the vote of thanks, I invite Architect Varsha, co-convener of Living Monsoon 2023 to 2025, IEA Coaching Center, to the stage.
Thank you, Linu. Good evening, everyone. As we draw the curtains on the third edition of Living Monsoon, it is with profound gratitude and a sense of accomplishment that I deliver this vote of thanks. Over the past 1.5 years, we have conducted 5 enriching design talks, fostering shared learning, meaningful discussions, and fresh ideas about architecture in tropical monsoon regions. First and foremost, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers of the evening, Architect Madhura Pramatilake and Architect Pakul Mahapan, for their thought-provoking and insightful presentations. Your contributions have left a lasting impact and inspired us to look deeper into the interplay of architecture and context. I also take this opportunity to thank all our previous speakers who graciously accepted our invitations throughout this edition and enriched our conversations with their knowledge and expertise. Along with our speakers, I would like to thank Ronson Arkoshi and Serene McCartan for their excellent speaker introductions and Namita Krishnan for an insightful interview earlier this evening. I also extend my thanks to all those introduced and interviewed our speakers in the past events of this edition. A special mention to Architect V.N. Ramachandran and Architect Gureen Abraham, the team behind the wonderful Living Monsoon videos you witnessed today. Big thanks to our MC for tonight, Architect Lenu George, for hosting with such grace and professionalism. Also, a special mention to all the previous MCs for setting such a high bar. This year, we hosted 3 impactful placemaking workshops that brought together the wisdom of stalwarts and the energy of young architects. I'd like to personally thank Namita, Manna and Serene for facilitating and coordinating these workshops. None of these would have been possible without the unwavering support of our sponsors. A special thank you goes to the Siemens Group for supporting us once again. I encourage my fellow architects to visit their brand new store and explore the innovative solutions they offer in home appliances. They say professionalism is the cornerstone of excellence. I'm truly grateful for the professionalism and support of all our partners whose contributions were crucial to the success of this edition. A special thanks to our travel agents, Ria Travels, for their prompt and precise management of speaker itineraries. A big thank you to Mr. Anthony and his team, our transportation partners, for being so flexible and reliable throughout. The stunning visuals and designs, including the posters, screen graphics, side wings, banners and mementos that have become the identity of Living Monsoon, are thanks to Salikutan, our IEA coordinator. Praveen and the team at Symphony Events deserve a big thank you for ensuring our events ran without a glitch. A big thank you to our media team, Arun and his team at Ask Classic, for documenting and archiving our talks for future access online. A final thank you to Ranjit and his team of Squareworks for our website creation and updation. On a personal note, this journey has been as much about growth and learning as it has been about making meaningful contributions to the association. As someone who has closely worked with Living Monsoon for 2 years now, I have a few personal thank you notes. Many have contributed to the success of this event over the years. While it is impossible to mention everyone, I would certainly like to recognize a few whose foundational efforts, even if not directly involved in this edition, have deeply shaped my understanding and commitment to Living Monsoon, helping me in my role as co-convener of Living Monsoon. To V.N. Ramachandran sir, considered as the founder of this initiative, thank you sir for opening this door for me.
am truly grateful for the opportunity to be recognized and to contribute such a brilliant and impactful program. To Architect Vijay Jagadish, past chairman of IAA Coaching Center, your clarity of thought and steadfast leadership have inspired an entire generation, including myself, to take on active roles in IAA. Your guidance has been invaluable, and your mentorship continues to inspire me and many others to strive for excellence in everything we do. To Lata Raman Jayagopal, a mentor for the previous Monsoon Architecture Awards, the way she conducts a session or event with such grace and articulation is truly inspirational. To Kalpana Abhijit, from whom I've learned the art of correspondence, a big thanks to her for her continued support to Living Monsoon program in speaker identification and correspondence, along with Billy Menon, who has helped with speaker identification. As we reflect on the success of this edition, it is essential to acknowledge the efforts of the team behind the scenes who have worked tirelessly to make this possible. To my current committee, led by Chairman Sebastian Sir, your support and ability to bring in significant leadership has been instrumental to the success of this edition. A big thank you to Binoy PS and Binesh Sukumar, Vice Chairperson and Treasurer of IAA Coaching Center, for your support to our events. A special shout out to our amazing Secretary Sharika R. Your relentless follow-ups and unwavering commitment to addressing outstanding tasks, even when it came at a personal cost, has been truly remarkable. A heartfelt thank you to Abhishek Xavier, the convener of Living Monsoon 2023-2025. The theme you have formulated has been at the heart of this edition, and your unwavering commitment to it has been truly inspirational. Working with you has been a learning experience for me. To my fellow committee members, thank you for your invaluable support and dedication throughout this journey. Our continuous and unified collaborations have led us to become friends more than colleagues. A special thanks to Ragima, who's the interview coordinator, Jay Krishnan and Anuvind. Yeah, keep the claps coming. Jay Krishnan and Anuvind, venue coordinators. Ajay, sponsor coordinator. Linu, MC coordinator. Anjit, speaker reception coordinator. Roshan and Shahir, registration coordinators. Thank you for stepping in when Abhishek and I couldn't personally reach. Finally, a big thank you to you, our audience, for your consistent presence and enthusiasm. You've made Living Monsoon what it is today. We look forward to your continued support. As we culminate this journey at the Grand Monsoon Architecture Festival on March 28th and 29th, 2025. We also encourage you to submit your entries for the International Monsoon Architecture Awards and placemaking competitions to make them as successful as last year and the previous one. Thank you for your patience and for allowing me to share these words on behalf of IAA Coaching Center. Wishing you all a pleasant evening ahead. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Varsha. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight has been just a glimpse of a remarkable and memorable journey ahead. We hope to see continued participation from each and every one of you in IIA's activities and role.